Janatan, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, it's great to be with you.
Before we get started, I do want to talk about your background a little bit. You are actually from Iran. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, I grew up in Tehran. I was active during the 2009 protest wave, and I moved to America shortly after. Prior to joining FDD, I was supporting activists inside Iran through the State Department grants, and currently I focus on Iranian domestic affairs and the Islamic Republic's malign influence.
So I think you are the perfect person for this conversation today because I want to talk about where we are exactly when it comes to negotiating Iran's nuclear program. U.S. and Iranian officials met at the end of last week for talks. The negotiations come amid escalating tensions between both countries. President Trump, he characterized those talks as very good, and he has continued to insist ever since that Iran wants to make a deal. And it's been described that Iran feels cautiously optimistic about the talks. So knowing what you know, read between the lines here for us. What are you gathering about where we are right now in terms of these negotiations?
So the Trump administration was very vocal about wanting to get a better deal compared to the 2015 JCPOA under Obama. There were a few concerns with that deal that many Republicans discussed. One of them was that Tehran had the ability to enrich uranium. Right now, when they discuss a better deal, they want to go beyond that and actually remove the Iranian regime's capacity to enrich uranium. That would be removing many centrifuges. In addition to that, many wanted the deal to go beyond just the nuclear apparatus. They actually wanted to put limits on the Iranian ballistic missile ranges that could, of course, reach Israel and Europe. These are the same missiles that are getting fired at Ukraine right now. And third is the issue of proxies. So, of course, Tehran has a very extensive terror network across the region and across the globe. So the criticism has been that the 2015 deal did not cover this. So if we want a better deal, we want it to be comprehensive. That said, we're in a state where the regime in Tehran is feeling increasingly paranoid. They are very unlikely to go and negotiate over stuff that they find to be existential to them. You're talking about a country that does not have an air force. They don't have air defenses anymore. So the only leverage they have right now is their ballistic missiles. That's on that. Now, getting into the proxy issue, adding that to an agreement is very challenging because what international body is supposed to enforce that? What counts as a violation? So when we look at the two parts, on one end, they're talking about a better deal, and they're talking about adding different components to a potential agreement, something that Tehran has already pushed back against. Of course, in the beginning stages of the negotiations, Iran always expresses a willingness that they're open to negotiating anything, but once we actually arrive there, they try to stall, and that has been their tactic, to drag out as much as they can to deter a potential attack. And that's what we're seeing. It was the same strategy in the May 2025 negotiations as well.
My next question would have to be twofold. The first one being, is there a world in which President Trump gets a better deal here than the one made in 2015 by Obama when it comes to Iran's nuclear program? And two, President Trump earlier this week was asked by Larry Kudlow if the current regime would ever really stick with the deal if there was a negotiated deal. And President Trump reiterated that they do want to make a deal. I mean, do you think that a deal with this regime would actually work if it did come to fruition? Is that something that they would stick to?
If the issue is the Islamic Republic's enrichment of uranium, the only achievement that was able to actually halt their capacity to enrich was Operation Midnight Hammer. No deal was actually able to prevent Iranian enrichment. Under 2015, they still were enriching. They had undeclared sites. So there's no guarantee that if there were to be a deal, they were not going to, again, use these discrete locations to enrich uranium and actually move with weaponization. That's one grave concern. On the other hand, again, because the regime is feeling increasingly paranoid, given that they massacred tens of thousands of their own people right now, the question really is it really the time to be negotiating with such a regime that is inherently illegitimate by its own people? Would that ever stick, I guess, would be the main challenge if you're negotiating with Tehran right now. And as I noted, there are other factors in place that would make it very challenging for the deal to go beyond the nuclear file. So if you want to include other components to this potential agreement, it would be challenging to enforce. And of course, Tehran has not expressed any willingness to actually provide any concessions on matters beyond nuclear.